What up, nephews? We back again. It's your Uncle Junior here for another segment of Ask Your Uncle. I got with us today Uncle Michael for you. Uncle Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, man, and
Yeah.
just blessing us with some insight, man, and some words of wisdom. Uh,
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
well, great. Well, bro, like I tell everybody else, man, I kind of just jump right into the content. Uh, but the first way for you to get more comfortable with the nephews and the nephews get a little more comfortable with you, I just ask that you give a little background information, like, what was your upbringing like, with mom, dad, mom, stepdad, mom by herself, or, and where you grew up at.
Sure, indeed. So I guess I was fortunate. I grew up with my mom and dad. I was the youngest of three boys. So I was the baby boy growing up, but that comes with some pros and some cons. I was an Army brat growing up, so that really contributed to my upbringing. We moved around a lot as a kid. I went to several schools. I was almost always a new kid at the school, at least once every couple of years.
Yeah.
So that really helped me in just being able to get out and do my own thing and meet people and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Through the years, we lived once overseas, and that really kind of expanded my idea of the world and how big it is, and just a desire to travel and see new places. Mm-hmm. And we ended up in Atlanta, Georgia. So Atlanta, Georgia is where I call home. So I'm a Southern boy at heart as well.
Yeah.
I'll stop there and let you jump in.
Nah, that's good. That's good. I was just wondering, and where are you at now?
Right now, I'm out here in Los Angeles, California. I've been out here for 2003 at the time, or since 2003 at the time that we're recording this. So it's been a minute. But I've enjoyed being out here on the West Coast.
Okay. And so growing up, do you remember what you thought you was going to be when you grew up?
Yeah, indeed. I always, as a child, I said that I wanted to be a scientist, and I really didn't know exactly what that meant. Mm-hmm. But just my idea of a scientist, I thought they were cool because they walked around. They were always wearing the white coats, mm-hmm. They had the goggles and they were playing with chemicals and beakers, and they just looked like they were always up to something. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I kind of consider myself a smart aleck kid, always had my nose in books and everything. So I was like, that'll be a good spot for me because I will, learn this information and be able to do new and cool things with it.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you actually do now?
I actually ended up being an engineer. So kind of the path to that. As a child, I remember one Christmas my parents got for me and my brothers an Atari 2600. And I really took to that thing, just like playing video games and, breaking it, pulling it apart, looking on the inside of it. I had a transistor radio too. I remember it was a G.I. Joe AM transistor radio. And I, messed around with it. I would break it open. I would look at all the transistors and circuits inside. Yeah. And that really got me, both of those things got me interested in electronics. Yeah. So, the next level of that is I was interested in computers. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to, I forget, sometime in the 80s, my dad got a Commodore 64. So I really took to that, and I learned how to program. I taught myself how to write little programs. I would read Commodore magazine and copy programs out of there line by line, typing them out. And again, fast forward, I went to a magnet high school in Atlanta, Georgia, Frederick Douglass High School. Okay. And their magnet program is for engineering and applied technology. So I learned more computers, I learned robotics, I learned physics. And it was just it really grounded me in my interest in engineering. Right. So the next step, as I went to college, I went to Iowa State University, and I started out in electrical engineering. And I didn't care for the physics very much at all. Physics is tough. Yeah. So I transferred out of electrical engineering and went to journalism because I also have a love for journalism. Back in high school, I was on the newspaper staff. I was on the yearbook staff, and I had started to DJ a little bit. I like music. Yeah. So when I had went to college, I was a radio DJ at the campus radio station. And I was like, okay, I'm going to check out journalism as a, potential career. So I went to journalism and came to find out, like when I was back in EE or electrical engineering, my classmates, they were talking about, oh, I'm going to get this internship. I'm going to be making like $15 an hour, $20 an hour. And I was like, okay, bet, I get to journalism. I was like, hey, so what's up with the internships? And they were, telling me, oh, you can get an internship here in Chicago, New York, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, what's the pay?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, these are unpaid internships. And I was like, whoa, hold up. You mean I'm going to do the work? Yeah, exactly. And you're not going to pay me for it? Yeah. I was like, I'm going back to engineering.
Wow.
And so I actually went back to the engineering college and this time in computer engineering, finished my degree with a BS in computer engineering and started working on circuits, like learning how to design circuits. Yeah. I mean, long story short, it was a journey, me thinking that I wanted to be a scientist originally, going through all these steps, growing up, learning how things worked and, picking up on my own interests and then finally landing in a job that, well, first, education and then a job that I found satisfying. It really kind of nurtured me as far as my interests.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. And like you said, through that journey, you probably ran across all kind of different people with different perspectives and different attitudes. And I wonder, like, who was like that big influence as far as like, a mentorship growing up? Like, who did you kind of, strive to want to be like?
Yeah, I had a lot of mentors along the way. And one gentleman that I really admire, I did not have the chance to meet him, unfortunately, but Ronald McNair, who was an astronaut. Just learning his story and the way that, that he came up and how smart he was. It was just like, wow, it really kind of lit the fire under me to be like, okay, I'm going to try to be like him and, aspire to learn as much as I can and do the best as I can. I mean, I can't really say I wanted to be an astronaut, but those are some sharp cats too. So,
right.
It was really kind of a drive that way.
Okay. But no one like that you actually got to meet that was like kind of hands-on with your thought process.
Oh, man, yeah, there's so many men and women that have benefited me. I mean, my dad, number one, I really appreciated him because he pushed me to do my best. But he never pushed me in any one direction that he dictated. You know what I mean? He kind of let me find my own way, but he always kind of, encouraged me to just, if I'm going to do it, I needed to do my best. So that was probably like some of the best, drive and support that I could have had, throughout my whole life.
Okay, so you're saying like you basically learn how to take pride in yourself and pride in your work and what you do. With that thought process though, was there ever like one trait or personality characteristic that you kind of just feel like would have hindered you if you had possessed it?
I even to this day, I feel like sometimes I can be I want to say like kind of like a loner, in some cases, because I mean, growing up as the only child, I had my brothers to look up to, and I guess they're role models as well. I got, two great older brothers and they're sharp in their own rights. And, they really inspire me to be better as well. But there was a time where they were both gone. So, here I am growing up with them and I get to, I forget what it was, maybe 9th or 10th grade. And they had already graduated. They had gone out. My oldest brother, he joined the Navy. My middle brother, he joined the Army. So I was kind of at home by myself, and I was like, man, I kind of got to find my own way now. But at the same time, I'm comfortable being by myself, but I know that I still need to reach out. I need the what I would say, the support and benefit and nurturing of the people that are around me. I can't just kind of shut myself off, even though I can very easily just feel like in my mind that I can sustain myself without anyone else. But that's no man's an island, so that would definitely be a downfall. So I embrace my friends, and acquaintances, and of course my family. I got a beautiful loving wife, got 2 kids, one that's mine, one that came along in a marriage, and I really just kind of when I feel like, oh man, I just want to be by myself, I'm like, oh, thank God I got these folks around me, because I couldn't do it by myself.
Yeah, yeah. And looking back, I like when you said that no man's an island, right? And so looking back, like you said, you had several people that blessed you and came through it and supported you in your vision and your quest for your life. But I wonder, sometimes, like, was there ever one piece of advice that you kind of wish someone had told you a lot sooner versus that you had to learn a lot later in life?
Um, and I think some of those realizations,
Mm.
it's wisdom that you earn versus wisdom that's transferred to you by someone else.
Okay.
But it's even more, well, I say it leaves a more lasting mark, even when you know that someone did tell you about it and
Yeah.
you didn't listen. You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Right.
still, because wisdom that you are given by somebody is supposed to kind of like remove that windburn, so
Yeah.
you use their experiences to make your own experiences better.
Yeah.
One of the experience that I think about, though, and this is my grandmother on my mother's side,
Mhm.
and I mean, she kind of taught me the benefit of saving in
Okay.
a very, what I want to say, like, a very humble way.
Mm.
And I remember as a child, I mean, I don't know how old I was. Say I was 3 or 4 years old,
Right.
but I remember she had like this old stocking, and
Mm.
she would put pennies and nickels and whatever in her stocking,
Right.
and put it in a drawer, hide it away or something like that. And then one day she told me about it. She's like, "Hey, Michael, I'm saving this change for you. And, once I save it up, you're going to have, a little stack of money,
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I want my money now. I want, I want,
Yeah. Yeah.
bratty little kid or whatever. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I want it now.
Yeah.
And so, she gave in, and she gave it to me.
Mm.
But I was like, what if I had let her continue to save those pennies? I mean, pennies and nickels, don't even really think about the amount, but
Right.
just the idea of, what if I had let her continue to save those pennies and nickels for me? What amount would that have grown to?
Yeah.
So when I think about that in my life, today, or since I kind of had that realization, like, man, I need to save, I need to, be a steward of my finances.
Right.
I have become a saver more so than a spender.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like to have a good time.
Right. Right.
I'm gonna spend money when it's warranted.
Right.
But at the same time, I may be a little frugal with that, or a little, I'm looking for the deal. I'm looking for the best bang for my buck, to put it,
Right.
simply. But through that lesson, I did learn the concept of saving and, planning for the future and making sure all of your finances are in order.
Okay. Okay. And with that, like, did you ever feel any pressure growing up to have your life kind of defined? Like you had to have your, a plan, or did that how did that come about for you?
Um, Not necessarily. I guess the one thing that my parents kind of impressed upon me and my brothers was that, when you're 18, you're out.
Yeah.
It's like you better find some kind of way.
Yeah.
And but they never pushed us in any one particular direction.
Yeah.
For me, I was pretty much set on the fact that I was going to go to college.
Right.
I was, really kind of impressed upon, even maybe going far back as middle school, that I was going to be going to college.
Right.
So even though nobody else told me that, I kind of had that idea.
Yeah.
And if my mom was here to tell it, she would say I was probably had that idea ingrained when I was in preschool.
Yeah.
So when she was going to college when I was, not even in elementary school yet, and she was at Virginia State University,
Right.
and they had a child development center on the campus.
Yeah.
So she would go to class and she would take me to the child development center. So, pretty much, childcare while she's going to class.
Right.
So she was, and this is her telling me that I would say, "Oh, I'm going to college. I'm going to college," but really, I'm just going to daycare, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but maybe that had a lasting impression on me, that I knew that I would be going to college eventually. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, anyway, yeah. I mean, I just knew I was going to get out of the house, go to college. Again, I was interested in engineering by that time.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was fortunate to go to Iowa State and get my computer engineering degree.
Well, all right. Well, and and like you said, I noticed that you know, education has been like a fundamental core, like for you, like, right, it's kind of like a staple, so to say. uh how much importance do you place on uh uh education versus, you know, common sense?
Well, I mean, you need both to get ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, or, you know, at least to get by in this world. But
Yeah.
and my mom would tell me sometimes, me and my brothers, you know, acting stupid, and she would
Mm.
say, you know, y'all got more book sense than you got common sense.
Yeah.
You know, so you need both. But and, I mean, well, tell me the question one more time. I'm tripping on my mom. You're tripping on me.
Had that flashback moment,
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
No, no, I just, like I said, I just want to know, like, you know, how should a young man, you know, how should they think when it comes into terms of education,
Yeah,
you know, how important is it, you know,
yeah.
really?
Well, regardless of what you do, you're going to have to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody's going to have to teach you, or you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
When you're figuring it out, you know, that's when you're getting experience, and you're learning it at the same time. But
Mm-hmm.
in either case, education is something that no one can take away from you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have it, you got it, you know.
Yeah.
But the key to even having that education is applying it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can know, you know, all day long, but unless you do with that knowledge, you know, I mean, how useful is it? So
Yeah.
I would say it I mean, I wouldn't impress upon anybody, you know, one method of learning or one thing to learn, or whatever the case is. But I
Right.
would say whatever you're interested in,
Mm.
go for it,
Right.
learn it, get as much experience as you can,
Right.
particularly today, because I mean, and I think about kids, you
Mm.
know, or young people when they say, hey, I want to be a musician, or I
Yeah.
want to be a, you know, author, I want to have a TV show, or
Right.
anything that is sort of media related.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it. You
Yeah.
know, there's YouTube. Get your phone out. Start
Yeah.
making a show. There's
Yeah.
TikTok. You know,
Yeah.
you know, you can publish a blog and translate your blog into a book. There's nothing that's
Mm.
stopping you from doing that.
Yeah.
And so definitely, like, learn the ins and outs of whatever it is you're trying to do, and then
Right.
apply that knowledge.
Right. Well, and that's interesting you say that, because, like I said, you've already talking about a kid who's already had some sense of what their purpose should
Yeah.
possibly be, right? But what about the young man? It's like, you know, Uncle Michael, man, like, they're in the 11th grade, you know, or
Yeah.
10th grade, and they haven't quite figured out what they want to be as an adult, or, you know, and they're not quite sure, you know, that college is going to offer them that benefit. Like, would you know, how
Yeah.
would you advise them to navigate that? Like, should they just go to college on a whim, you know, and not really know what they want to do, or should they start looking elsewhere? Like, how do you advise them on that?
Yeah, I think everyone has some interests or some passion,
Mm.
and I think in a lot of ways there are opportunities to turn interests and passions into meaningful careers,
Mm.
or you know, just meaningful involvement for a
Mm.
person. If you're you know, for this nephew, if they're trying to find a job,
Mm.
yeah, you're gonna have to figure something out. You
Yeah.
know, figure out what you do.
Yeah.
More importantly, figure out what you don't want to do,
Okay.
because you don't want to end up in a case where you're doing something that you don't want to do, and you're good at it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
people are like, no, I want you to keep doing this. I'm like, no, man, I don't want to do this. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I guess I can't really provide any direction myself, but I mean, there's counselors,
Right.
particularly in schools,
Right.
that are really skilled to help kids figure that out. And I would say, you know, enlist them, enlist, you know, other, you know, wise or sage people that you may know,
Right.
particularly, you know, in your church, in your neighborhood, in your community, if you have,
Yeah.
you know, the advantage of being able to reach out to those people.
Yeah.
If not, I mean, there is material online,
Yeah.
and maybe some books that, you know, a kid can consider. Even if, I mean, like, military service is always an option. And again, I would not impress military service on anybody, but
Right.
there is the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Battery. I forget what the exact acronym is,
Right.
but
Right.
basically it's a test to see what you're interested in, what you're good at. You know,
Yeah.
So maybe if you take that test and you're like, oh man, I realize I'm interested and good at this. Well, you don't have to go to the military to do that. I mean, if you do, you definitely get the benefit of doing that and that experience, and maybe even, some benefits on the back end of it. But, you could use that as a boost too, to kind of figure out what you want to do.
I like that. I like that. And like you said, that's them taking charge of their life and trying to make it work, right? Whatever cards they dealt, they're just trying to figure out how to play them, right? And so the thought with that is, like how do you kind of know, like what's the difference between a kid and an adult? Like what makes an adult and what makes a young man still a kid,
Yeah, indeed. Um, and my kids would probably trip on me, but I always say we're all children of God, so we're all kids.
Okay.
But I think that difference is when you're able to provide for yourself. Now, I said earlier, and I'm going to stand on it, no man's an island. You can't do everything that you need to live in life completely alone.
Right.
However, if you are able to provide for yourself in the sense that you have your own home, you can provide your own transportation, you can clothe yourself, you can feed yourself, and that's kind of where you become an adult when you achieve that, like, success and responsibility for yourself. Just because you don't have to lean on anyone else, for those things that you need to survive. I think that's really what kind of sets the young man apart from the adult man.
Right. And in conversations between young adults and adults, right? So there's been debate of whether or not, there's been is there a sense of lack of respect, right? So is the question, is mainly like, what is respect in your definition, and how do we bridge that gap? Like, is it the kids' fault that adults are not talking to them correctly, or is it the adults' fault where they're not responding correctly to how kids are talking to them?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, respect. I mean, first of all, respect is something that you earn. I feel, but I mean, respect in at least in my culture, in my community, is something that's given to people of stature, people of experience, people who are, I call them sages, because they're seasoned, they've been here for a minute, so you kind of need to look on that and respect it. And so that experience is, or rather that respect is given, but at the same time, I mean, parents need to earn their children's respect as well, looking at it from that direction. And kids need to give it. It's like, I mean, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. It's like, oh man, I mean, like, earning your kids' respect is tough, because sometimes you got to tell them the truth, Sometimes you need to be honest with them, but you need to protect them at the same time. And that's kind of a tough spot to be in some cases. But I think most importantly, you just need to be present. You need to be there for them. And once they know that, your love for them is unshakable, that they'll be there, that you will be there for them no matter what. I think that's where you start to really earn that respect. But at the same time, discipline them when they step out of line, because sometimes kids will test their parents, and then they'll see how far they can go. And when they get past that "I've gone as far as I can go" point, that's when you really start to lose, or rather, at least in my opinion, the child may lose respect for that parent, for that parent figure.
And then in the black community, like, it seemed like growing up, like you said, the sages, right? So what we were taught was kind of, is that face value. You basically, you see an older person and you automatically gave them that respect. But nowadays it seems as though, like, that respect is not automatically given. You see what I mean? And you wonder about that. It's like saying, like, how is that wrong that we grew up thinking like that, with that, respect should just be given, and because how do you earn respect when you don't even know the person, you just met the person.
Yeah. Well, and in that sense, I think it's more of it's a what do I want to say? It's like a concern for human beings, period.
Okay.
Let's start there. Let's consider, the respect for another human being,
Right.
first of all. Because yes, there are some grown, maybe 70 or 80-year-old fools out there that you're like, man, okay, I know you're 80, but you're tripping right now,
Yeah.
So in that sense, it might be tough to give them then the respect that you may consider an elder deserves.
Right.
But I mean, let's start with just respecting somebody as a human being, and just starting there.
Well, I get that, and the human being, the human rights thing is kind of why I was asking the questions, because that's also up for debate right now, as far as interaction between African Americans and the police. So, like, what's prevalent now is that that the tensions are at all time high. You're right, where you didn't even do anything, but you drive down the road and you kind of tense up a little bit, that reflex, like, oh man, this can go any way. But the main concern is our young black men, right? So, how would you advise them to handle interactions with police officers when they're not getting that respect from the officer? And the officer may be an elder, but they can't really necessarily just give them that respect at face value.
Yeah. And that is a tough one, because I'm a grown man and I feel the same way, given circumstances that we live in today. And I mean, I have family that are police officers, and I love them. I pray for them every day, because I know they're out there, they're in a very, very tough spot as law enforcement officers. And I mean, I will say, I don't think I'm 100% qualified to tell somebody how they should handle themselves, or around or interacting with law enforcement. Because I don't know. I mean, people are people, and people are going to act however they're acting. I think it really boils down to the situation, but it does also depend on how you carry yourself.
Okay.
I mean, it's tough because, I mean, first of all, you have to be correct to begin with, and that's where I kind of have the problem with, some interactions, because, okay, if you're acting, in a criminal manner, we'll just say, and you have an interaction with law enforcement, man, that's a tough place to be in. For me to say, okay, well, you need to, put your hands up and, make sure you're complying with their orders or whatever. Well, that might not even bode with that situation, because I mean, what were you doing to begin with?
Well, I'll help you out. What's the thought process though? Like, right or wrong, no matter if I did a rolling stop, or if I just went and bought a soda and my pants fell down, I'm holding one, I got my pants hanging out. It doesn't really matter. They stop me, they detain me. What's my thoughts should be? Like, what I mean? Like, this guy, he's already interrupting my day. What I mean? I'm a black youth, what I mean? I got places to go, every teenager think they got some place to be, what I mean? And that's what I kind of wonder, like what's their thought process should be, with that immediate interaction.
And so, I mean, in situations like that, you can't pop off, because when you pop off, or, that's when you're inviting, what I want to say, an interaction that's heated. So, I mean, you can try to explain yourself, but I would say stop, just take your time with it. You can't, rush the situation, because now you're on their time. Okay, so going with the situation, and I can see it happening. Say your belt's loose, you're in the store. You got a can in one hand. You're like, oh man, great. You're holding them up. Okay, you might look like a thug right now.
You come out, he's like, oh man, come on now.
So then it's like, okay, well, okay, officer, can you explain to me why you're stopping me? Okay, maybe you have some interaction there. I understand, sir. I just want you to know, that this is the situation. If you're given the opportunity to explain yourself, explain yourself. But I mean, I think that the key in any of these situations, again, I said, number one, hopefully you're in the right. You're not
Right.
already in the wrong.
Right. Right.
And I mean, roll and stop. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of on the edge of it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think
Yeah.
the number one thing is to keep a level head,
Yeah.
to keep your wits about you,
Mm.
and to just, be as calm as you can. Now,
Yeah.
again, I mean, the world that we live in today, it can be difficult to
Mm.
stay calm.
Mm.
And I realize that.
Yeah.
But that really, just to boil it down, that's probably the advice that I would give, like, stay calm.
Yeah, yeah, like a duck on water.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, I know what you
Yeah.
mean. And and it kind of made me think a little bit about things we're not actually taught in class, right? So any school,
Mhm.
anything like that, it's things that they can't teach you. Some things, like you say, you call common sense. You have to learn trial by fire, right?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest ones is rejection, right? So,
Mm.
the question that I ask is how would you advise a kid to handle rejection uh, when courting a woman and when looking for that job, that college that they want to apply to?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, rejection is a tough emotion to experience,
Mm.
particularly for men, because
Yeah.
we set ourselves up to be providers.
Mm-hmm.
Our community and our society sets us up to be providers,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're in a family.
Mm-hmm.
Providing that way. So I'll take it one at a time.
Right, right.
Jobs, and then the ladies.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so with a job, I think you need to, first of all, prepare yourself the best you can
Mm-hmm.
for the position that you're trying to get.
Okay.
And there's a lot of material out there. I don't care what kind of job it is. You can get training for it. You can find books for it.
Yeah.
If you're inventing your own career, if you're an entrepreneur, there's
Mm-hmm.
books on entrepreneurship. There's books on marketing. You need to learn how to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to steel yourself, and by that I mean STEEL, as in, like, gird yourself with armor, and
Oh,
be
okay.
prepared to hear the word no.
Right.
So you can be hype
Mm-hmm.
about whatever it is you're selling if you're an entrepreneur, or
Yeah.
hype about yourself and the skills that you have if you're trying to
Yeah.
get a job.
Yeah.
But be prepared because I mean, if you're asking somebody a question, say in this case for a job,
Mm-hmm.
they can give you two answers. They can say yes or they can say no.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be prepared for both of those answers. And this is what I tell my kids this, because they'll say, like, oh, I used to try to get my kids to start a YouTube channel, like, because they're always watching YouTube. And I'm like, oh man, y'all should start a channel. Y'all should do
Right.
it. But they're like, what if nobody watches my YouTube channel? But
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
Let's think about it the other way. What if 1 million people subscribe to your channel? What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
How are you going to carry yourself? So flip it to the positive, but be
Yeah.
ready to handle, the negative side of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, kind of along those lines, for jobs, I mean, some people, they work multiple jobs. I'm
Right.
guilty of that.
Right.
But really, if you're looking for a job, you only need one. So be
Right.
prepared for that one yes.
Mm.
That's all you need. You're asking, you're putting your resume out there, you're interviewing, you're doing whatever you got to do, you're grinding.
Yeah.
You're getting these no's, you're getting these no's, you're getting these no's.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you're not even going to care about the no. You're going to be expecting the no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eventually you're going to get that yes. So yeah, be ready for it.
Okay. Okay. And I like that. I like that. I guess I kind of tie the rejection in is because, at least with a job, you get feedback, right? But the rejection from a woman, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna get that feedback, So I do wonder, how would you advise them to handle criticism?
Yeah. Criticism is tough.
Mm.
And I guess it depends on what the spirit with which it's given.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, in our culture, we have a concept, clowning somebody, it's just like, oh man, I'm going to put you down just because I can,
Yeah.
And in a sense, I don't know, I still feel like that builds character.
Yeah.
But if somebody is giving you honest feedback, criticism that you can take and use to your advantage, I'd say be ready to receive it. But yeah, for the ladies, it's tough because you might see that one, and she's special, and you're doing whatever you can to kind of woo her or get in her line of sight or whatever the case it is, phone number, email address, Instagram. I don't know what it is, trying to get to the DMs. And she might be like, nah, bro, I'm good. Okay, well, you might have to accept that and keep it pushing. You can be persistent, not to the point of being creepy. You don't want to be like, stalking somebody. But again, you need to put on your best appearance, or be the best person that you are. And I think if you do that, and you're interested in a young lady and pursuing her, then as long as you are true to yourself, then you're going to find somebody that's interested in you for yourself, and that's the thing. If you're a fake and you're meeting people in that fake sort of costume, you're acting like somebody else, that's going to be hard to keep up, so if you do win someone's affection while you're wearing that fake mask, she might be loving that fake person. Now you got to be fake for as long as you want that relationship, and that's not where you want to be. You want to be as real as you can to yourself. You want to be enjoying, yourself in your life. And really, you want to invite somebody in to enjoy your life with you. That's the whole purpose of a mate. It's like, hey, let's find a way that we can combine our lives so that we are mutually beneficial, and we have a mutual enjoyment of our existence. You don't want to be, somebody who's, kind of like tagging onto your life like a leech, or tagging onto somebody else's life like a leech, or at the same time liking you because you're fake, So you might have to go through some put downs and some let downs, but like I said, all you need is one yes. That's all you need.
And so you would say have an open mind. Would that be like one of the qualities that you would advise a young man to look for in a woman when they're choosing that mate, is that she has an open mind? Or like what kind of characteristics should they be looking for, in women, when they're out looking for that mate?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everybody's going to have their own different interests, or where the case is. But I can only speak for myself, and in my experience, I appreciate a woman who has an interest or a passion for something. And so, I mean, and my wife, she's going to be listening to this, and I love her. Nicole, you're the best. You're the one for me. But I'm going to talk about some past ones. So I have dated some women, and one thing that I found like a common theme, through the women that I've dated, is they all kind of had some sort of passion or interest. And like, one was a dancer. She was really into dancing. She's studying ballet, teaching dancing. One was an artist. She can explain who painted. She could look at a painting like, oh, that's a Rembrandt from and so she was just kind of sharp about that. And I mean, some might have been sharp on music or education or even sports or whatever. Just like knowing that they have that sort of that passion, that interest, that drive. That's kind of cool, because I mean, okay, can you appreciate my interest is computers? I got stacks of computers around because I like electronics. But that's kind of where my interests lie, and I hope somebody can appreciate that that passion. And my wife does, because whenever her computer is broken, she's like, hey, can you fix this? So I'm like, yeah, I got you. That's what I'm here for. So indeed, and so my wife now, Nicole, we've been together for quite some time. I like her sense of order, and she has a very mechanical mind. She's a mechanical engineer, and I appreciate that sort of intelligence about her. She's like a real I don't know, I forget what somebody called her, but I mean, she's into like cars, and she rode motorcycles, and that type of thing. She wants like sanders and drill presses, and all this kind of stuff in the garage, and I'm like, we only have space for this, but anyway, I really do like that about her.
Hey, I could dig it, because I guess, like you say, it's all dependent on the person, on what they're looking for. And the point of this whole thing is to kind of give these nephews advice, on just ways to navigate from some pitfalls, right? You don't want them to find the wrong woman, you don't want them to fall into the wrong crowd. But I guess, like, at the end of the day, what should they look for in friends? Like, as far as like what friends are good for them, what friends are not good for them.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I mean, I think that especially when we're young, we want to please people, and we want to be liked, and so with that, we might hold back from saying something that we know is true. We might not call somebody on something,
right?
But I think the true friends are the ones that they're gonna laugh with you, they're gonna cry with you, and they're gonna call you on your shit.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
No, yeah.
But
I get
yeah, at the same time,
Mhm.
when they call you on it,
Yeah.
they will ask you what you need to help you with it. You know what I mean? That's like a real friend, and be like, I'm trying to think of an example, but it's like, yeah, they're the real ones. And again, it's tough to find, because I mean, you can know people, you can have acquaintances, and how do those acquaintances become true friends? That's like, it's kind of like almost like the test of time.
Yeah.
You have to really go through some stuff to realize, like, oh man, they were there for me when I really needed them, and I didn't even know that I needed them, but
Yeah.
but there they were. And at the same time, it's like when you see that, like, oh, I see this emotion in this person, and I need to help them with this, or I see this, maybe somewhere where I can lift them up, or I can provide for them, or even just encourage them. Like I think about when I played soccer. I played soccer in high school, and there was one day at practice. I mean, good friend of mine. I did not want to be at practice, and I was just like, I was just going through the motions,
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey man, you're cheating yourself by not doing these reps, So I forget what exercise we were doing, but he just kind of he called me on it,
Yeah.
And I thought, I was like, yeah, you're right. Let me run these steps, or do these sit-ups, whatever it was we were doing.
Yeah.
And it was just like that push that I needed to kind of get through that funk that I was in.
That's all right. Well, that's the perfect way to wrap this up. Like I said, we did approach our time. I wasn't able to get through everything that.
Oh, we'll be back. We'll be back, man.
Okay, right. Just want to make sure we can get you back on in a few weeks and possibly keep the conversation going.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like I said, brother, but at the end of every segment, I try to give my uncles a little time in case there was anything we didn't discuss, or any kind of thing that's pressing on your mind, you kind of wanting to get out to the nephews. I just want to give you that opportunity to go ahead and share that wisdom if you want.
Man, yeah, I wouldn't even know where to begin, nephew, but I would say just like keep pushing. Don't Every day is an opportunity to live and learn. And you're going to come across some days where you're like, man, I just, I can't do it today. I just want to sit down. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to mess with these people. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to, run these laps. I don't want to do whatever it is. But every day is just another day to get up and live and go out there and grind and be your best. So, I mean, it's not much, but Nike said it. They said, just do it. Sometimes you got to get up. Sometimes you got to get out there, and you got to do what you know is right. So while you're out there doing that, just keep your wits about you. Stay sharp. Look out for the people on your left. Look out for the people on your right. The people that care about you, the people that you care about. Make sure that you're lifting them up and supporting them. And just take time for yourself when you can, and just re-energize yourself, and pull from the energy of the people that are around you, especially like in a time such as this when we're recording this. A lot of people are, they might be trapped in places they can't get out because they don't want to interact with people. But if there's people that are around you, draw off that energy from them, and just kind of lift each other up. And yeah, just do the best you can. Be good. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else.
Well, all right, you heard it. All right, well, we're gonna let you go, and like I said, I can't wait to have you again for a couple of weeks from now. And
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Till then, brother, God bless.
All right, take care now.
All right.